My name is Dave Defoe. I started this company, Flavorman, 33 years ago and 1 week. And we thought it would be nice to do a series where we started talking about the way we do business, because everybody knows that Flavorman develops beverages and we sell flavors, and we have a division called Moonshine University. Those kinds of things you can read on a website. But I wanted to take the time to kind of talk about, how we work with clients and really how we get the job done. And we're going to do that throughout the year, talking about some of the things that we believe and we know make us special. For instance, we strongly believe that experience matters. You can throw together a beverage in an afternoon if you want to, but if you really want to create something that has some legs and meets all the specifications of a successful beverage, we know how to do that. We've been doing it for a long time. And there are all kinds of things we're going to talk about timetables, the kinds of ingredients we use, all the kinds of things that we've really gotten through experience. We're also going to talk about the exceptional levels of service. Again, we don't just walk away once we develop a product. We're actually in the trenches with our clients. It's very important not just to say, here, do this, do that. We go in and we say, let's do this, let's do that. Here's why we're doing this. Here's some of your choices. Here's some opportunities for you, all those kinds of things. We'll be talking about that. We're going to talk about some of the beverage solutions we've created over the last 3 decades. It's easy to add water and sugar and flavor and color and come up with something that you can drink. But it's another thing to come up with what kind of flavor you should be using. What are your options in sugars and sweeteners? Because there's all kinds of them now. And 30 years ago, there weren't that many, but now there are a lot of them. And we have some solutions that really benefit the client and ultimately the consumer. And the last thing that we're going to talk about throughout this series is our history of success. If you were here at Flavorman right now, you'd walk around this building and you'd see hundreds, if not thousands, of products we've developed for clients over the years. And these products are sold not only in the U.S., but around the world. And they are in every category and every type of packaging, alcohol and non-alcohol, things with vitamins, non-vitamins. I could go on and on forever, but we're going to talk about some of those things so you can see for yourself that we know what we're doing. The first thing you have to do really is to listen to the client. What do they really want? Do they know what they want? Because we have our fair amount of clients that come to us and just have a rough idea of what they want. So we help them kind of pare that down and kind of figure out exactly what they want, who their customer is, because you have to design a beverage or a flavor for the customer. So we really know by the end of that consultation, that one-on-one consultation, that we can understand the brand. We know what they want and we know what they think they want for the client. So that kind of gets a whole project started. And then from that point, we advise. We basically, here's some options. Have you thought about this? All the while, we understand what their brand is. So when we're advising them, it's very pointed. It's not just, we're not throwing things on the wall to see what sticks. We're looking at what they want, who their client is, and then we're developing ideas and opportunities for them as the project goes on. Part of this personalized service is the unique flavor systems that we can develop. Because we have an on-site flavor development lab staffed with folks that have worked in the industry for decades. Basically, if you come to us with an idea of a flavor, we can develop it. And not only that, we're going to develop other flavors for you that you didn't even ask for. But based on the conversations that we've had with you, we're going to be able to develop flavors that would work for your concept. We align the beverage with the industry. When I started in this industry, actually 40 years ago, almost everything that we developed had artificial flavors in it. And I'll bet you that nobody has asked us for an artificial flavor in 10 or 20 years, maybe. I mean, that's how the industry has went. Meanwhile, we followed trends. We followed the energy drink trend. We're right now in the ready-to-drink cocktail trend. We went through flavored vodkas, flavored gins. We've been part of all of those kinds of trends. So when we're developing a product for a client, we want to make sure we're aligning that product with what is needed in the industry or what's going on. After we develop products, we're listening to the feedback from the clients or the distributors or the retailers, and we can make changes based on what what their needs are, what they see in the marketplace. So we don't just develop a product and walk away. We're there after the fact through the whole process. And we also, we acknowledge milestones when we have customers that have we've been with for 5 years or 10 years, or they've maybe hit, 1 million cases or those kinds of things. We never miss an opportunity to celebrate. I think when you get really busy and you're moving as fast as you can and everybody wants you to move even faster, you kind of miss those opportunities. And we make it a point not to miss those opportunities. That's important when you're building a brand. For all of the time that we've been in business as Flavor Man, our success is tied directly to the successes of our clients. So if they're not out there selling, their beverages, we're not selling flavor, we're not selling services. They're not using, our analytical lab. They're not using the beverage solutions that we've created for them. They may not come to us for the classes that we do in Moonshine University. Basically, if they're successful, we'll be successful. We're tied directly to their success. So I've said for a long time, experience matters. So if you're trying to develop a beverage and you know exactly what you're doing, one of the things that I tell clients when they come in here is you don't know what you don't know. So you may develop a product that may be beautiful on day one and taste great, but on day 25, the colors have faded, the flavor's not as good as it was, and oh, by the way, it might be, growing something. You might have a microbiological problem because you didn't know about those things. And that becomes a big problem in any industry, actually. So through our experience, we've done all of that. So we know what kinds of flavors to use, which ones last longer, the kinds of things that we put in flavors to make them so that they last longer over time. We know what kind of colors to use if you're going to go in a glass bottle that the sun maybe can penetrate, or are you going to go in a can where there's no sun, no air? All kinds of packaging decisions will affect the kinds of products and ingredients that we use to make a beverage. You may not be thinking about that. You may not think about where you're going to contract manufacture because you've Googled contract manufacturer and you've found one. And they're in, Timbuktu, and they do the kind of package that you want, but you don't realize that they've had a lot of problems at that plant and, they've screwed up things. We know these kinds of things. We've been around for a while. So that's a huge benefit to work with Flavor Man because of our experience. But also, our experience can decrease your timeline. So we're not fooling around trying to figure out what color or what flavor to use or, things that you would do if you weren't experienced because you're doing all kinds of experiments on these things. We can go right to the point. So if you tell us you want, a mango flavor, it's going into a product that is going to be pasteurized. We know which mango flavor to use that'll withstand the heat of pasteurization. So, your timetable will be oftentimes drastically reduced. So, and what happens when your timeline is reduced? Well, you're in the marketplace faster. You're making money faster. You don't have all these expenses waiting for your product to come out. It can be a huge financial benefit. So there are all kinds of things that experience that we have matters. This will be first in a series where we're going to tie together our experience and the way we conduct business. We're going to be doing some blogs and different things that are written that you can see actually how we conduct ourselves. And what we're going to do through the year is we're going to talk about experience matters. How does that affect your beverage or your flavor or your the way you're doing business in the marketplace? We're going to talk about our exceptional levels of service. Flavor Man works with clients like no other. We're going to talk about our beverage solutions, the kinds of things that we've developed over the years that can make a difference with your beverage. We could reduce costs, perhaps. We could extend your shelf life. There are all kinds of things that we can use in these beverage solutions that we've created. And then, one of the things throughout also, we're going to talk about the history of our success. And we've helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies and entrepreneurs develop new beverages. I suspect that most of you who are listening to this right now would be shocked to know how many beverages that Flavor Man has put on the market for our clients. And in the end, you'll see how we enhance our client relationships by this exceptional service and our experience. We foster loyalty. We work with our clients like they are really partners. We don't just say we have partners, they are partners. And what does that do in the end? That enhances loyalty. And it's a two-way street. We're loyal to the clients and they're loyal to us as well. And we can really get things done quicker because we're not worried about losing that business or if they're going to go somewhere else, because generally they don't. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to create engaging experiences. Because like I said before, it's a two-way street. It's not just a client coming at us telling us what they want. It's us saying, I hear what you're saying, but have you thought about this? Here's some other opportunities. Would you like to explore those? And I know you want to put a certain thing in your beverage, but here's what's going to happen if you do that. So we engage the client, in a relationship in which they're making decisions based on what we say, and we'll make decisions based on what they say. And we're going to use this series to kind of go through some of those topics.